She was drowning in medical bills, working 2 jobs to save her brother. He was a tech billionaire isolated by wealth and grief. One desperate text to the wrong number was about to change everything.
You don't have to reply. I just wanted you to know that I still needed you, even if you gave up on me.
I don't know who you meant to send this to, but for what it's worth, someone still should have shown up for you.
What started as a mistake became midnight conversations, shared secrets, and a connection neither saw coming. But when she discovered his true identity, everything shattered.
You lied to me, Nate, all this time.
I was afraid that if you knew who I really was, what I really had, it would change things.
Now a waitress and a millionaire must decide if love is strong enough to bridge 2 different worlds. Can a relationship built on a wrong number become the right love? Or will the truth destroy what they found in the darkness? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you're watching from today. The night shift at Bailey's Diner had been particularly grueling. Kira Dawson wiped sweat from her brow as she counted her tips. $23.45. Not enough. Not nearly enough for Jaden's medication this month. At 25, Kira's hands already showed the wear of someone who'd worked twice her years. Her nails were cut short, practical for the 2 jobs she juggled. She tucked a strand of her black hair behind her ear and sighed, feeling the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. "You heading out, Kira?" asked Martha, the senior waitress who'd taken her under her wing 3 years ago when Kira first started at the diner. "Yeah, need to check on Jaden," Kira replied, her voice soft but determined. "He wasn't feeling too good this morning." Martha's eyes softened. "That brother of yours is lucky to have you. You go on home, honey." The walk to her small apartment on the outskirts of Nashville was dark and quiet. Her worn sneakers made little noise on the pavement. The late October air bit at her face, reminding her that winter would soon bring higher heating bills she couldn't afford. Inside her apartment, Kira found Jaden asleep on the couch, his favorite blanket pulled up to his chin. At 19, her brother looked younger when he slept, almost like the little boy she'd practically raised after their mother died. His chronic kidney condition had gotten worse over the past year, and the medical bills were piling up faster than Kira could earn money to pay them. She carefully placed the back of her hand against his forehead. No fever tonight. Thank goodness for small mercies. In her tiny bedroom, Kira changed into an oversized t-shirt and sat on the edge of her bed. The cracked screen of her phone glowed in the darkness. She'd been thinking about her father all day. It was his birthday. The man who'd walked out when Jaden's medical problems first started, claiming he couldn't handle it. 5 years of silence. 5 years of struggling alone. Before she could think better of it, Kira pulled up her father's old number and typed, "You don't have to reply. I just wanted you to know that I still needed you, even if you gave up on me." She hit send and immediately regretted it. What was the point? He probably changed his number years ago. She set the phone down and curled up under her thin blanket, too tired to even cry. Across town, in a sleek high-rise apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Nashville skyline, Nathaniel Langston's phone buzzed on his glass coffee table. He was sitting alone in the dark, nursing a glass of expensive whiskey he couldn't even taste anymore. At 30, Nate had everything most people dreamed of: a tech company worth millions, a luxury apartment, cars, and more money than he could spend in a lifetime. And none of it meant a thing since Claire died. His sister's overdose 2 years ago had left a hole in his life that success couldn't fill. The anniversary of her death was tomorrow, and he'd been sitting in the same spot for hours, scrolling through old photos on his phone. When the message notification appeared, he almost ignored it. Probably another business associate wanting something from him. That's all anyone ever wanted. But the content caught his eye. This wasn't a business message. "You don't have to reply. I just wanted you to know that I still needed you, even if you gave up on me." Nate stared at the unknown number, something stirring in his chest. Someone had texted the wrong number, clearly. But those words, they cut straight through him. How many times had Claire tried to reach out to him while he was busy building his empire? How many calls had he missed because he was in important meetings? He started typing, then deleted it. Tried again. What was he doing? This wasn't meant for him. But something made him try once more. Finally, he wrote, "I don't know who you meant to send this to, but for what it's worth, someone still should have shown up for you." He hit send before he could change his mind. Kira was almost asleep when her phone buzzed. She reached for it, expecting nothing. Certainly not expecting a reply from her father after all these years, but the message wasn't what she expected at all. She sat up, heart pounding. Wrong number. She texted a complete stranger something deeply personal. Embarrassment washed over her. "I'm so sorry," she typed quickly. "That message wasn't meant for you." The reply came almost immediately. "No need to apologize. We all have people who should have been there and we rent." Kira hesitated, her thumbs hovering over the screen. She should just end the conversation. But something about the stranger's response felt understanding, like they knew exactly what she meant. "Still, it's embarrassing," she wrote, "sending something so personal to a stranger." "Sometimes it's easier to talk to strangers," came the reply. "No history, no expectations." She smiled slightly at that. "I suppose you're right." "Bad day?" the stranger asked. Kira surprised herself by answering honestly. "Bad year, more like it." "I know the feeling." There was something comforting about texting this stranger in the dark. No judgments, no pity. Just words on a screen from someone who didn't know her struggles but somehow seemed to understand them anyway. "Who did you mean to text?" the stranger asked after a moment. "My father," Kira admitted. "It's his birthday. We haven't spoken in 5 years." "That's a long time." "He left when things got hard," she wrote, surprised at how easily the words came. "My brother got sick and he just walked away." "I'm sorry," the stranger replied. "That's not what fathers are supposed to do." "No, it's not," Kira sighed. "I should let you go. Thanks for not being weird about this." "I'm Nate," the stranger wrote instead of saying goodbye. Kira hesitated, then replied, "I'm Kira." "Nice to meet you, Kira. Even under strange circumstances," she smiled. "Nice to meet you too, Nate." "Get some rest," he wrote. "Tomorrow's a new day." "Hopefully a better one," she replied. "Hopefully." Kira set her phone down, feeling oddly lighter. She fell asleep thinking about the stranger named Nate, who had been kind when he didn't have to be. The next morning, Kira woke to Jaden coughing in the next room. She hurried to check on him, finding him pale and shivering on the couch. "Hey, buddy," she said, sitting beside him. "Not feeling good?" Jaden shook his head, his dark eyes, so like their mother's, clouded with pain. "Feels like someone sitting on my chest." Worry bloomed in Kira's heart. "I'll call Dr. Patterson." The call didn't go well. Jaden needed to come in. He might need hospitalization, and their insurance had lapsed last month when Kira couldn't make the premium payment. After helping Jaden get dressed, Kira called in sick to both her jobs, the diner and the convenience store where she worked weekends. She couldn't afford to miss work, but Jaden came first. Always. In the waiting room at the clinic while Jaden was being examined, Kira stared at her phone. The medical bill would be enormous. She had no idea how she would pay it. Almost without thinking, she opened her messages and typed to Nate. "Remember that better day we were hoping for?" Not happening. She was surprised when he replied almost immediately. "What's going on?" "My brother's sick, at the doctor now. Can't afford it, but what choice do I have?" "I'm sorry," Nate wrote. "Is there anyone who can help?" Kira laughed bitterly to herself. "Not really. It's just me and him against the world these days." "No other family?" "Mum died when he was 14. Dad's gone. It's just us." There was a pause before Nate replied. "How old is your brother?" "In a teen. He has a kidney condition. Has since he was a kid." "And you take care of him?" "Someone has to," Kira wrote. Then, feeling like she was complaining too much, she added, "He's a good kid, smart, deserves better than what life's given him." "Sounds like he's lucky to have you," Nate replied. Before Kira could respond, the nurse called Jaden's name. She put her phone away and followed them back to the examination room. Nate stared at his phone, waiting for a reply that didn't come. He was sitting in his corner office on the 30th floor of the Langston Tech building, supposedly reviewing quarterly reports. But his mind was stuck on the text conversation with a woman he'd never met. Kira. Even her name felt genuine somehow. He couldn't stop thinking about her situation. A young woman caring for her sick brother alone, with no support system. It resonated with him more than he wanted to admit. Lair had been alone too in the end. He'd been too busy to notice how bad things had gotten with her addiction until it was too late. His executive assistant, Patricia, knocked on his open door. "Your 11 o'clock is here, Mr. Langston." Nate nodded, putting his phone down reluctantly. "Send them in." The meeting dragged on, venture capitalists wanting a piece of his company's latest project. They spoke about millions of dollars like it was pocket change, and all Nate could think about was a woman he'd never met, sitting in a doctor's office, worried about bills. When his phone buzzed with a message from Kira, he ended the meeting early, ignoring the surprised looks from the investors. "They want to hospitalize him," her message read. "I can't afford it. I don't know what to do." Nate's fingers moved quickly across the screen. "Is he going to be okay?" "If he gets treatment, yes. It's a kidney infection, but without insurance." Nate took a deep breath. He wanted to offer money. He could pay whatever bill she was facing without even noticing it was gone. But something told him that wasn't the right approach. Not yet. Not when they were still strangers. "What hospital?" he asked instead. "Nashville General. Why?" "Just wondering," he replied, already formulating a plan. "Listen, Kira. Get your brother the care he needs. Things have a way of working out." Kira stared at her phone, puzzled by Nate's cryptic message. She didn't have time to decipher it now. Jaden needed her. The next hours passed in a blur of paperwork, worried glances, and uncomfortable plastic chairs. When the hospital administrator approached her about payment options, Kira braced herself for the worst. "Ms. Dawson?" the woman said, her expression unreadable. "Yes, that's me," Kira replied, her stomach knotting with anxiety. "It appears why..." "Our brother's treatment has been covered by the Nashville Medical Assistance Program." Kira blinked. "What? But I didn't apply for that." The administrator checked her computer. "According to our records, you were enrolled automatically based on your income level. The program covers his current hospitalization and follow-up care." Kira couldn't believe what she was hearing. "There must be some mistake. I've been trying to get assistance for months." "Well, it appears the paperwork finally went through," the administrator said with a small smile. "Sometimes the system works, even if it takes longer than it should." As the woman walked away, Kira sank back into her chair, relieved but confused. It seemed too convenient, too timely. But she wasn't about to question it when Jaden was getting the care he needed. She pulled out her phone and texted Nate. "You're not going to believe this. Some assistance program is covering Jaden's treatment. The administrator said we were automatically enrolled. Have you ever heard of paperwork magically fixing itself?" Nate's reply came quickly. "Sometimes the universe works in mysterious ways. How's your brother doing?" "They started him on IV antibiotics. Doctor says he should improve quickly." "That's good news," Nate wrote. "You must be relieved." "Beyond relieved," Kira replied, suddenly exhausted as the adrenaline drained from her body. "I don't know what I would have done otherwise." "You'd have figured something out," Nate wrote. "You seem like someone who always does." Kira smiled at her phone. "You don't know me well enough to say that." "Maybe not," came his reply. "But I'd like to." Kira felt her heart skip a beat. She stared at those 5 words for a long moment before replying, "I'd like that too." 3 days later, Jaden was released from the hospital with a prescription for antibiotics and strict follow-up instructions. Kira still couldn't believe their luck with the mysterious assistance program, but she wasn't going to question it too deeply. She and Nate had been texting constantly. She'd learned he worked in technology, though he was vague about specifics. He was 30, never married, and had lost his sister 2 years ago, though he didn't elaborate on how. In turn, she'd told him about her jobs, about taking care of Jaden since she was 20, about her dreams of someday going back to school. They'd graduated from texting to phone calls. The first time she heard his voice, deep with a slight southern accent he'd clearly tried to minimize, she'd felt butterflies in her stomach like a teenager. "I want to meet you," he said during their call that night after Jaden had gone to bed. "In person, I mean." Kira hesitated. "I don't know, Nate. What if me eating ruins this, whatever this is? What if it makes it better?" he he countered. She laughed softly. "Are you always this optimistic?" "Not usually," he admitted, his voice turning serious. "Not for a long time, actually, but talking to you, it makes me want to be." Kira felt warmth spread through her chest. "You make me feel less alone," she confessed quietly. "Same here," Nate replied. "So, what do you say? Coffee somewhere public in case I turn away? Tasked to be a serial killer," she laughed again. "Well, when you put it that way, how can I refuse?" They arranged to meet at a coffee shop downtown the next day. After hanging up, Kira found herself standing in front of her closet, wondering what to wear, something she hadn't concerned herself with in years. For the first time in a long time, she felt a flutter of hope. A wrong number text had somehow led to this unexpected connection with a man who seemed to understand her in ways no one else had before. Little did she know that Nathaniel Langston was hiding something that could change everything between them. His wealth, his power, his real identity, all secrets that would soon come to light. But for now, in this moment, Kira allowed herself to feel something she'd almost forgotten, excitement about what tomorrow might bring. Kira checked her appearance one last time in the small bathroom mirror. She'd chosen her nicest jeans, the ones without any visible wear, and a simple blue blouse she saved for special occasions. Her hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail, and she'd even applied a touch of mascara and lip gloss. "You look nice," Jaden said from the doorway, leaning against the frame for support. He was still weak from his hospital stay, but improving daily. "Hot date?" Kira smiled. "Not a date. Just meeting a friend for coffee." Jaden raised an eyebrow. "A friend who makes you change outfits 3 times. "It's not," Kira started, then sighed. "It's complicated." "It's the wrong number guy, isn't it?" Jaden grinned. "The one you've been texting non-stop." "His name is Nate," Kira said, feeling her cheeks warm. "And yes, we're meeting for coffee, but I'll have my phone. If you need anything." "I'll be fine," Jaden interrupted. "Mrs. Henderson from next door already promised to check on me. Go, have fun. You deserve it." Kira hugged her brother gently. "I won't be long." "Take your time," Jaden insisted. "Seriously, sis, you've put your life on hold for me long enough." Kira grabbed her purse, the one she'd found at a thrift store that still looked relatively new, and headed for the door. "There's soup in the fridge. Make sure you take your medicine at 2 o'clock, I know." Jaden shooed her toward the door. "Go." The bus ride downtown felt interminable. Kira's stomach was a knot of nerves. What if Nate was nothing like she imagined? What if he took one look at her and was disappointed? What if... She forced herself to stop the spiral of anxious thoughts. Whatever happened, she'd at least had these past days of connection with someone who seemed to understand her. That was worth something no matter what. The coffee shop was busy when she arrived. Sunlight streamed through large windows, illuminating small round tables where people chatted and worked on laptops. Kira scanned the room, realizing she had no idea what Nate looked like. Her phone buzzed with a text. "I'm at the back table by the bookshelf. Blue shirt." Kira spotted him immediately. He sat with his back to the wall, tall even while seated, dark hair, neatly trimmed, strong jawline. And when he looked up, and their eyes met, Kira felt her breath catch. Nate stood as she approached Ravi, Ling his full height, at least 6 feet tall. He wore a simple blue button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms marked with a few scars. His smile was tentative, almost shy. "Kira?" he asked, his voice exactly as it had sounded over the phone. She nodded. "Nate, it's good to finally meet you," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. A cup of coffee already waited there. "I hope you like lattes. The barista recommended it." "Lattes are perfect," Kira said, sitting down. She wrapped her hands around the warm cup, needing something to do with them. "This is weird, isn't it, meeting like this?" Nate's smile widened. "A little, but good weird." "Good weird," she agreed, returning his smile. The initial awkwardness faded quickly as they fell into conversation as easily as they had over the phone. Nate asked about Jaden, showing genuine concern about his recovery. Kira found herself talking more than she usually did, drawn out by Nate's attentive questions and warm eyes. "Enough about me," she said finally. "Tell me more about you. You've been pretty vague about your job." A flicker of something discomfort crossed Nate's face. "It's not very interesting. I work with computers, software development." "That sounds interesting to me," Kira said. "I know nothing about computers beyond the basics." Nate shrugged. "It pays the bills. What about you? If you could do anything, not for money, but just because you love it, what would it be?" Kira considered the question. No one had asked her that in years. "I teach," she said finally. "Elementary school, I think. I love kids." "You'd be great at that," Nate said with such certainty that Kira felt warmth bloom in her chest. "How would you know?" she asked, half joking. "We just met." "I know how you care for your brother," Nate said simply. "How you put him first. That kind of compassion can't be faked." Kira looked down at her coffee, uncomfortable with the praise. "It's just what anyone would do." "No," Nate said, his voice gentle but firm. "It's not what anyone would do. Trust me." Something in his tone made Kira look up. The sadness in his eyes was unmistakable. "Your sister," she said softly. "You mentioned you lost her." Nate nodded, his fingers tracing the rim of his cup. "Claire, 2 years ago, drug overdose." "I'm so sorry." "I was building my company," he said, the words coming out clipped, controlled. "Working 18-hour days. She tried to reach out. I was too busy." He took a deep breath. "By the time I realized how bad things had gotten, it was too late." Kira reached across the table and placed her hand on his. "It wasn't your fault, Nate." He looked at their hands, then at her face. "That's what everyone says, but they're wrong." "Addiction is complicated," Kira said. "You can't take all that on yourself." "That's what your text reminded me of," Nate admitted. "When you accidentally messaged me, I still needed you. Even if you gave up on me." It was like hearing Claire's voice. Kira squeezed his hand gently. "I'm glad you are," replied. "Me too." Nate turned his hand over, his fingers intertwining with hers. "More than you know." Their coffee date stretched into lunch at a small deli next door. They talked about books they loved, movies that made them cry, places they dreamed of visiting someday. Kira found herself laughing more than she had in years, drawn to Nate's dry humor and thoughtful observations. As they walked along the riverfront afterward, Kira realized with a start that it was nearly 3 o'clock. "I should check on Jaden," she said, pulling out her phone. "Of course," Nate said immediately. "Do you need to get back?" Kira texted her brother. The reply came quickly. "All good. Having fun? Stay out. I'm fine." She showed Nate the message with a smile. "Looks like I've been given permission to play hooky a little longer." "In that case," Nate said, "would you like to see something?" He led her to a small hidden GA, hidden tucked between 2 buildings. Stone benches surrounded a tiny fountain, and flowering vines climbed the walls, creating a secret oasis in the heart of the city. "How did you know about this place?" Kira asked, enchanted by the unexpected beauty. Nate sat on one of the benches. "I like finding quiet spaces in the city, places where I can think." Kira sat beside him, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. "And what do you think about in you are quiet spaces, Nate?" "Lately?" He turned to look at her, his eyes intense. "You." Kira's heart stuttered in her chest. "Nate, too much?" he asked, suddenly uncertain. She shook her head. "No, just unexpected. This whole thing is unexpected. Good unexpected. Very good unexpected," she admitted. When he leaned in to kiss her, it felt as natural as breathing. His lips were gentle against hers, the kiss brief but full of promise. When they parted, Kira found herself smiling. "I'd like to see you again," Nate said. "Soon." "I'd like that too." Over the next 2 weeks, Kira and Nate saw each other nearly every day. He'd meet her after her shift at the diner, bringing coffee and walking her to the bus stop. On her day off, they took Jaden to the park where Nate and her brother bonded over a shared love of science fiction movies. "I like him," Jaden told Kira that night after Nate had gone home. "He doesn't look at me like I'm broken." "He's a good man," Kira agreed, unable to keep the smile from her face. "But," Jaden prompted, always perceptive. Kira sighed. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like he's holding something back. And have you noticed he never talks about his home or invites me there? We always meet in public places. Maybe he's embarrassed, Jaden suggested. His place might be a mess. Maybe, Kira said. But the doubt lingered. Nate paced the polished floors of his penthouse, phone in hand. He'd just dropped Kira off at her apartment building, careful as always to use his older model car rather than the luxury vehicles in his garage. Patricia, his executive assistant, watched him from the kitchen counter, where she was organizing his schedule. You know you'll have to tell her eventually, she said. Nate ran a hand through his hair. I know. But you don't understand, Patricia. She's different. She cares about things that matter, her brother, her work, helping others. Money doesn't matter to her. All the more reason to be honest, Patricia pointed out. She'll find out eventually. Better from you than someone else. Nate knew she was right. The deception was wearing on him. He hated lying to Kira, even by omission, but every time he thought about telling her the truth, he remembered how fiercely independent she was, how she refused to accept help even when she desperately needed it. His phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. It was his brother, Michael. Nate, Michael said without preamble, the board meeting is tomorrow at 9. The Jensen merger is on the agenda. I'll be there, Nate replied, his mind already shifting to business mode. And the charity gala is Friday night, Michael continued. You're expected to make an appearance. Nate hesitated. He'd promised to take Ira to a movie on Friday. I might be late. You're the face of the company, Michael reminded him. These investors expect to see you. I said I'll be there, Nate snapped, then immediately regretted his tone. Sorry, just a lot on my mind. After hanging up, Nate texted Kira, need to reschedule Friday, work emergency, rain check? Her reply came quickly. No problem, everything okay? Just business stuff, he wrote back, nothing serious. Can I see you Saturday instead? Saturday works. Dinner at my place. Jaden's been asking for your mac and cheese recipe. Nate smiled at his phone. It's a date. I'll bring the ingredients. Friday night found Kira unexpectedly free. Jaden was staying at a friend's house for a video game marathon, his first social outing since getting sick, and the apartment felt empty without him. Martha from the diner called just as Kira was contemplating an early night. Sugar, I hate to ask, but Denise called in sick. Any chance you could cover her shift tonight? Kira agreed immediately. Extra money was always welcome, especially with Jaden's medical bills still looming despite the mysterious assistance program. The diner was busier than usual for a Friday night. Kira moved efficiently between tables, her mind half on her work and half on Nate. What kind of work emergency happened on a Friday night? It was just one more mystery about him. Table 12 needs more coffee, called Ralph, the short order cook. Kira grabbed the coffee pot and headed to the table in the corner. She was halfway there when she stopped dead in her tracks. The customer at table 12 was reading a newspaper, his face partially hidden. But Kira would recognize those hands anywhere. It was Nate. She approached slowly, confusion mounting. He'd said he had a work emergency. What was he doing, Hari? More coffee, she asked, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Nate lowered the newspaper, his eyes widening in shock. Kira, what are you? I thought you were off tonight. Covering for a sick co-worker, she replied, pouring his coffee with a hand that trembled slightly. What about your work emergency? Nate's face flushed. It ended earlier than expected. I was just grabbing a bite before heading home. Kira nodded, not believing him for a second. Anything else I can get you? Kira, Nate began, his expression pained. I can explain. You don't owe me an explanation, she said, keeping her voice low. We've only known each other a few weeks. That's not fair, Nate said, reaching for her hand. You know it's more than that. Kira pulled her hand away as the bell over the door chimed. A group of well-dressed people entered, led by a tall man who resembled Nate. The man spotted Nate and here dead straight for his table. There you are, the man said. We've been waiting at the restaurant for 20 minutes. The investors are getting restless. Kira stared at the newcomer, then at Nate, whose face had gone pale. Michael, Nate said stiffly. This is Kira. Kira, my brother Michael. Michael barely glanced at her. Nice to meet you. Nate, we need to go. The Jensen deal is hanging by a thread, and only you can smooth things over. The Jensen deal? Kira repeated, her confusion growing. What kind of software company handles deals important enough for emergency meetings on Friday nights? Michael looked at her more carefully than at Nate. Software company? Nate, you didn't tell her? Michael, not now, Nate warned. Tell me what? Kira asked, a sinking feeling in her stomach. Michael laughed shortly. My brother doesn't work for a software company, Miss Dawson, Kira supplied, her voice faint. Miss Dawson. He owns Langston Tech, one of the largest technology corporations in the country. Michael turned to Nate. Really, Nate? Playing poor boy with the waitress? This is low even for your recent midlife crisis behavior. The coffee pot nearly slipped from Kira's hand. Langston Tech. She'd seen the name on billboards around the city, on the business section of newspapers. The company was worth billions. Kira, Nate stood, ignoring H's brother. Let me explain. You lied to me, she said quietly. All this time. I didn't lie, Nate insisted. I just didn't tell you everything. A lie of omission is still a lie, Kira said, years of disappointment hardening her voice. I have to get back to work. She turned and walked away, her back straight, her heart breaking. Behind her, she could hear Michael's voice. Come on, Nate. The investors are waiting. Kira made it through the rest of her shift on autopilot. Her phone buzzed repeatedly with messages from Nate, but she couldn't bring herself to read them. Not yet. The hurt was too fresh. When she finally got home and looked at her phone, there were 12 messages and 5 missed calls from Nate. The last message read simply, Please let me explain. I never meant to hurt you. Kira sat on her bed, emotions warring within her. Part of her wanted to delete his number and forget they'd ever met. But another part, the part that remembered the gentleness in his eyes when he spoke about his sister, the way he'd made Jaden laugh, couldn't let go so easily. She typed a brief reply. I need time to think. His response came immediately. I understand. But Kira, everything between us was real. I'm still the same person you've been talking to. Are you? She wrote back. Because the Nate I knew wouldn't have lied about something so important. I was afraid, his next message read. Afraid that if you knew who I really was, what I really had, it would change things. Kira stared at those words for a long time. Finally, she replied, It has changed things, just not in the way you thought it would. She turned off her phone and lay down, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. She'd been a fool to think someone like Nate could be interested in someone like her. What had he been doing? Slumming it? Playing some game? The worst part was that she'd started to fall for him, really fall for him, and now she didn't even know who he really was. Nate stood on the balcony of his penthouse, staring out at the city lights. The Jensen deal was secure. He'd managed to charm the investors despite his distracted state, but it felt hollow. All he could think about was the hurt in Kira's eyes, the betrayal. He'd screwed up royally, and he knew it. Michael joined High M on the balcony, offering a glass of whiskey. You're welcome, by the way, for saving the deal. Nate took the glass, but didn't drink. You embarrassed her. She's a waitress, Nate, Michael said dismissively. What does it matter? Nate turned to his brother, anger flaring. That waitress has more integrity in her little finger than most of the people we deal with have in their entire bodies. She works 2 jobs to support her sick brother. She never complains. She's kind and funny and real. He set the glass down hard enough that whiskey sloshed over the side, and I just lost her because I was too cowardly to tell her the truth. Michael stared at his brother. You're serious about this woman? Yes, Nate said without hesitation. Then fix it, Michael said simply. How? She won't answer my calls. Michael shrugged. You're Nathaniel Langston. You've built a tech empire from nothing. Surely you can figure out how to win back one woman's heart. As his brother walked away, Nate pulled out his phone and stared at Kira's last message. It has changed things, just not in the way you thought it would." What did that mean? Was there still hope? Nate knew one thing for certain. He wasn't giving up without a fight. Kira Dawson had brought light back into his life after 2 years of darkness. He would do whatever it took to make things right. But first he had to find a way to show her who he really was. Not Nathaniel Langston, tech millionaire, but just Nate. The man who'd fallen in love with her over wrong number texts and coffee shop conversations. The man who wanted nothing more than a second chance to prove that their connection was real. As the city lights twinkled below him, Nate began to form a plan. It would take humility, honesty, and courage, all things he'd been short on lately. But for Kira, he would find those qualities again. He had to. Because for the first time since Claire died, Nate had found something worth fighting for, someone worth fighting for, and he wasn't about to let that slip away without doing everything in his power to make it right. 3 days passed without a word from Kira. Nate had stopped calling and texting, respecting her request for time, but the silence was killing him. He sat in his corner office staring unseeing at the Nashville skyline. The door opened and Patricia entered with a stack of papers. "The quarterly reports need your signature," she said, placing them on his desk. When he didn't respond, she sighed. "You look terrible." "Thanks," Nate muttered, running a hand over his unshaven face. "Have you heard from her?" Nate shook his head. "I messed up, Patricia. I should have told her the truth from the beginning." "Yes, you should have," Patricia agreed bluntly. "But what's done is done. The question is, what are you going to do now?" Nate leaned back in his chair. "I've been thinking about that. A lot. And I'm going to show her who I really am." Nate stood up, suddenly energized. "Not the money or the company. Me, the person I was before all this." He gestured around his opulent office. "The person I want to be again." Patricia raised an eyebrow. "And how exactly are you going to do that?" Nate smiled for the first time in days. "I have an idea." Kira wiped down tables at Bailey's diner, exhaustion weighing on her shoulders. She'd picked up extra shifts to keep busy, to keep from thinking about Nate. It wasn't working. "You look dead on your feet," Martha said, concern in her voice. "When was the last time you had a day off?" "I'm fine," Kira insisted, though her back ached and her eyes burned with fatigue. "No, you're not," Martha countered. "This is about that man, isn't it? The one from the other night." Kira didn't answer, which was answer enough. Martha squeezed her shoulder gently. "Whatever happened, honey, you can't work yourself to death over it." The bell over the door chimed, and Kira turned to greet the new customer. Her heart stuttered when she saw who it was. Jaden walked in, leaning slightly on a cane, a recent addition since his hospitalization. He was followed by Mrs. Henderson, their elder RLE neighbor. "What are you doing here?" Kira asked, hurrying over to her brother. "Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine," Jaden assured her, "but you need to come home. There's something you need to see." "I can't just leave, Jaden. My shift doesn't end for another 3 hours." "Go on," Martha interjected. "We're slow today. I can handle it." Kira hesitated, then nodded. "Let me get my purse." The bus ride home was tense. Jaden wouldn't tell her what was going on, and Mrs. Henderson just smiled, mysteriously, when Kira questioned her. As they approached their apartment building, Kira noticed a moving truck parked outside. "What's that doing here?" "You'll see," Jaden said, a hint of excitement in his voice. When they reached their apartment door, Jaden stopped. "Before we go in, just keep an open mind, okay?" "Jaden, you're scaring me. What's going on?" Instead of answering, he opened the door. Kira stepped inside and froze. Their small S-Habby apartment had been transformed. The old sagging couch had been replaced with a new one. A flat-screen TV hung on the wall where their ancient box TV had been. The dingy carpet was gone, replaced with warm hardwood flooring. "What?" Kira whispered, taking in the changes. "There's more," Jaden said, leading her through the apartment. The kitchen had new appliances, the bathroom had been redone, and Jaden's bedroom now contained a hospital-grade bed with adjustable settings, a desk with a new computer, and bookshelves filled with books. "I don't understand," Kira said, her voice faint. "How?" "It was Nate," Jaden said simply. Kira's shock turned to anger. He did this? Without asking? How dare he? Kira, Jaden interrupted. There's a letter for you on the kitchen counter. Still fuming, Kira stalked to the kitchen. An envelope with her name, written in Nate's handwriting, sat propped against a vase of fresh flowers. Her favorites, daisies and sunflowers. With trembling hands, she opened it. Kira, I know you're probably angry right now. You have every right to be. I should have asked before doing any of this, but I wanted to do something real for you and Jaden. Not because I'm Nathaniel Langston with more money than I know what to do with, but because I'm Nate, the man who's falling in love with you. Yes, I arranged the medical assistance program for Jaden. I couldn't bear to see you struggling when I could help. I should have been honest about that too. The renovations aren't meant to be flashy or to show off. I asked Jaden what would make your lives easier, more comfortable. That's all I wanted, to ease your burden, even a little. If you hate it all, I'll have everything taken back. No questions asked. But if you decide to keep it, please know it comes with no strings attached. It's not a WI to buy your forgiveness. It's simply something I wanted to do for two people I've come to care about deeply. I miss you, Kira. I miss your voice, your laugh, the way you see the world. I miss our conversations about everything and nothing. Most of all, I miss the way you saw me, not as Nathaniel Langston, CEO, but just as Nate. If you're willing to talk, I'll be at our garden tonight at 7, just to talk. If you don't come, I'll understand. I'll respect your decision and won't bother you again. Yours, Nate. Kira read the letter twice, emotions warring inside her. She looked up to find Jaden watching her anxiously. Did you know about all this? She asked. Jaden nodded. He called me yesterday, asked what we needed, what would make things easier. He was really specific, Kira. He wanted to know what kind of bed would help with my back pain, what books I like to read. Jaden gestured to his new computer. He remembered that I mentioned wanting to take online classes. He bought your forgiveness, Kira said, but her voice lacked conviction. No, Jaden said firmly. He didn't buy anything. I was already on his side. He moved closer, taking the letter from her hands. Kira, I know you're scared. I know you think he lied to you, but the way he talks about you, it's real. Kira sank into a kitchen chair, new, like everything else. I don't know what to do, Jaden. Yes, you do, her brother said gently. You're just afraid to do it. At 6:55 that evening, Nate sat on a stone bench in the small hidden garden, his heart pounding. He'd changed clothes 4 times before settling on a simple grey sweater and jeans, clothes that were comfortable, that felt like him, not like the CEO of Langston Tech. He checked his watch again. 6:57. The rational part of his brain told him she wasn't coming. Why would she? He'd lied to her, deceived her. Then he'd gone and renovated her apartment without permission. A grand gesture that probably came across as presumptuous and controlling. But another part of him, a hopeful part he'd thought long dead, whispered that she might come, that what they'd shared in those brief weeks was too special to throw away. At 7:15, Nate's hope began to fade. He'd give it until 7:30, he decided. Then he'd leave, respect her decision, and try to move on. At 7:28, footsteps sounded on the garden path. Nate looked up, his breath catching. Kira stood at the entrance to the garden, wearing a simple blue dress, the same color as the blouse she'd worn the first time they met. Her hair was down, framing her face in soft waves. You came, Nate said, standing but not approaching her. I almost didn't, Kira admitted, staying where she was. I'm still angry, Nate. I know. You have every right to be. DOI? Kira took a step forward. That's the thing. I keep telling myself I have the right to be angry that you lied, but then I think about why you lied. Because I'm a coward, Nate said simply. No, Kira shook her head. Because you wanted me to see you. Not your money or your company. Just you. She took another step. And I did see you, Nate. I still do. Hope flared in Nate's chest. Kira. But, she continued, holding up a hand, that doesn't make it okay. You should have trusted me enough to tell me the truth. You're right, Nate agreed immediately. I should have. I was just afraid. Of what? That you'd look at me differently. That you'd see what everyone else sees. The money, the power, the status, not me. Nate ran a hand through his hair. I've spent 2 years surrounded by people who only want what I can give them. Then I met you, and you wanted nothing from me except conversation, companionship. It was liberating. Kira moved closer, close enough that he could see the mix of emotions in her eyes. And the apartment. Jaden's medical care. I went too far, Nate admitted. I should have asked. But seeing you struggle when I could help, it killed me, Kira. I'm not a charity case, she said, her voice hardening slightly. I know that, Nate said quickly. That's not why I did it. I did it because I care about you. Both of you. He took a tentative step toward her. If you want me to undo it all, I will. No questions asked. Kira was quiet for a moment. Jaden loves the computer, and that adjustable bed is helping his back pain. I'm glad, Nate said softly. The thing is, Kira continued, I've spent years taking care of everything myself. I'm not used to accepting help, especially on that scale. I understand. Do you? Kira challenged. Do you understand what it's like to count every penny, to choose between medication and groceries, to work until your feet bleed because there's no other option? No, Nate admitted. I don't. Not anymore. But I used to. Kira looked surprised. What do you mean? Nate gestured to the bench. Can we sit? There are things about me you should know, things I should have told you from the beginning. Kira hesitated, then nodded, sitting on the bench with space between them. Tenetrit Langston Tech, Nate began. I built it from nothing. My parents died when I was 20, car accident, Claire was 16. We had no other family, so I became her guardian. We had a little money from our parents' life insurance, but not much. He stared at his hands as he spoke. I dropped out of college to take care of her, worked 2 jobs, stocking shelves during the day, coding at night. Claire was struggling with the loss of our parents. She started acting out, falling in with a bad crowd. I was too busy trying to keep a roof over our heads to notice how bad it was getting. Kira's expression softened slightly. That sounds familiar. Nate nodded. I created an app in my spare time, a simple thing that helped people organize their digital photos. Somehow, it went viral. Suddenly, companies were calling, wanting to buy it. I sold it for enough money to start Langston Tech properly, to give Clarity stability she needed. And then I got caught up in it all. The business grew faster than I expected. Suddenly, I was in meetings all day, traveling constantly. Claire needed me, but I convinced myself that providing for her financially was enough. Nate's voice broke slightly. It wasn't. She was still hurting, still self-medicating. By the time I realized how bad her addiction had gotten, it was too late. Kira reached out and took his hand. I'm so sorry, Nate. After she died, I threw myself into work even more. It was easier than facing the guilt. Nate looked at their joined hands. Until I got your text, until I met you. And that's why you didn't tell me about the money, Kira said, understanding dawning in her eyes. Because it didn't save Claire. Because in some ways it made things worse. Yes, Nate whispered. Money didn't matter in the end. What mattered was being there. Showing up, something I failed to do for Claire. He looked into Kira's eyes. Something I want to do for you, if you'll let me. Kira was quiet for a long moment. I need you to promise me something. Anything. No more secrets, no more half-truths. If we're going to try this, really try, I need all of you, the good and the bad. Hope bloomed in Nate's chest. Does that mean... It means I'm willing to give us another chance, Kira said, but slowly and on equal footing. Equal footing, Nate repeated. What does that mean to you? It means you don't try to solve all my problems with money, Kira said firmly. It means you ask before you make decisions that affect me or Jaden. It means you respect that I've been independent for a long time, and that's not going to change overnight. I can do that, Nate promised. What about the apartment? Kira sighed. It would be silly to undo it now, and I can deny that it makes things easier for Jaden, but in the future we talk first. Agreed. Nate squeezed her hand gently. What about Jaden's medical bills? Kira hesitated. That's different. I can't afford them on my own, and his health comes first. But I want to know exactly what you're doing and why. Full transparency, Nate promised. And one more thing, Kira added. I want to meet the real Nathaniel Langston, the CEO, the public figure. I wanted to understand all sides of you. Nate felt a flicker of anxiety at the thought of introducing Kira to his world. The board meetings, the charity galas, the media attention. But he pushed it aside. She was right. If they were going to build something real, she needed to know all of him. Deal, he said. Then, tentatively, he added, Can I kiss you now? Kira's lips curved into a small smile. Yes. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to change her mind. But she met him halfway, her lips soft against his. It was a gentle kiss, full of forgiveness and new beginnings. When they parted, Kira rested her forehead against his. This isn't going to be easy, you know. We come from different worlds. I know, Nate agreed, but I think we might be better together than apart. The next week was a delicate dance of rebuilding trust. Nate invited Kira to his penthouse, letting her see the side of his life he'd kept hidden. She met Patricia, who approved of Kira immediately, much to Nate's relief. She's nothing like those society women you've dated before, Patricia told him privately. She's genuine. Kira, for her part, was overwhelmed by the luxury of Nate's life, but determined not to let it change how she saw him. She noted with approval that despite his wealth, Nate's personal space was relatively modest, comfortable but not ostentatious. Books lined the walls, and photos of Claire held places of honor. You're not what I expected, Kira admitted as they stood on his balcony overlooking the city. What did you expect? Nate asked, his arm around her shoulders. I don't know. Gold faucets, a butler, marble everything. Nate laughed. Sorry to disappoint. I'm not disappointed, Kira said, leaning into him. I'm relieved. This place feels like you. In turn, Nate spent more time at Kira and Jaden's apartment cooking dinner with them, helping Jaden with his online college applications, watching movies on the new TV. Simple, normal activities that felt profound to a man who'd spent 2 years isolating himself in grief and work. The true test came when Nate invited Kira to attend a charity gala with him, her first public appearance as his date. You don't have to go, he assured her, as they discussed it over dinner at her apartment. Those events can be tedious. I want to, Kira said, though her voice betrayed her nervousness. I want to understand your world. Jaden, sitting across from them, snorted. You just want to wear a fancy dress for once. Kira threw a napkin at him, but she was smiling. Maybe that too. The night of the gala, Nate arranged for a stylist to bring dresses to Kira's apartment, despite her protests that she could find something herself. It's not about the money, he explained. It's about making you comfortable. These events have unspoken dress codes. I don't want anyone making you feel out of place. Kira relented, and when she emerged from her bedroom in a deep blue gown that complemented her skin tone perfectly, Nate's breath caught. You look beautiful, he said simply. Kira smoothed the fabric nervously. It feels strange, like I'm playing dress-up. You look like a princess, Jaden said from the doorway, his voice sincere. Mum would be so proud. Tears welled in Kira's eyes at the mention of their mother. You think so? I know so, Jaden assured her. Now go, have fun, don't worry about me. Mrs. Henderson is coming over, Kira reminded him, and you have both our numbers if you need anything. I'll be fine, Jaden insisted, shooing them toward the door. The charity gala was held at the most prestigious hotel in Nashville. As Nate helped Kira from the car, cameras flashed. She stiffened, unprepared for the attention. Just smile and keep walking, Nate murmured, his hand steady at the small of her back. They're always at these events. Inside, the ballroom was a sea of designer gowns and tuxedos. Kira gripped Nate's arm tightly as heads turned to watch them enter. Mr. Langston, a middle-aged woman in diamonds, approached. So good to see you. And who is your lovely friend? Mrs. Carmichael. This is Kira Dawson, Nate said smoothly. Kira, Gloria Carmichael sits on the hospital board with me. Dawson, Mrs. Carmichael repeated, her smile faltering slightly. I don't believe I know the name. You wouldn't, Kira said with a directness that made Nate suppress a smile. I'm not from your circle. Mrs. Carmichael's eyebrows rose. Oh, and what is it that you do, dear? I'm a waitress, Kira said, chin lifted. At Bailey's Diner. You should come by sometime. We make great apple pie. Nate squeezed her hand, pride warming his chest. Mrs. Carmichael looked taken aback, but quickly recovered. How refreshing, she said before excusing herself. That's going to be all over the room in 5 minutes, Nate murmured. Does that bother you? Kira asked, suddenly uncertain. Not in the slightest, Nate assured her. In fact, it's the most entertaining these galas have been in years. As the evening progressed, Nate introduced Kira to dozens of people, business associates, society figures, charitable donors. Some were clearly surprised by her background, but many seemed charmed by her straightforward manner and genuine interest in the charity's work supporting children's hospitals. Halfway through the night, Michael appeared, his gaze assessing as he took in Kira's presence. So this is serious, he said to Nate, not bothering with pleasantries. Yes, it is, Nate R. replied firmly. Kira, you remember my brother Michael? From the diner, Kira said coolly. Hard to forget. Michael had the grace to look slightly abashed. I apologize for my behavior that night. I was focused on business, not manners. Apology accepted, Kira said, surprising both brothers with her easy forgiveness. As the evening wore on, Kira excused herself to visit the ladies' room. While washing her hands, she overheard two women talking in the adjacent powder room. Can you believe Nathaniel Langston brought a waitress? One said in a stage whisper. She's pretty enough, I suppose, but hardly suitable. It won't last, the other replied confidently. He'll tire of his little charity project soon enough. Men like him always do. Kira froze, hurt lancing through her. She'd expected some judgment, but hearing it so boldly stated was still painful. She dried her hands and walked out with her head high, ignoring the sudden silence from the two gossips. But the confidence she'd felt earlier had evaporated. When she returned to Nate's side, he immediately sensed her change in mood. What's wrong? He asked quietly. Nothing, Kira said, forcing a smile. Just a bit overwhelmed. Nate studied her face. Did someone say something to you? Not to me, Kira admitted. About me. It's fine, Nate. I knew what I was walking into. Anger flashed in Nate's eyes. Who was it? It doesn't matter, Kira said, placing a hand on his arm. Really, let's just enjoy the rest of the evening. But the magic of the night had dimmed. Kira felt the weight of stares, the judgment in sidelong glances. The gap between their worlds suddenly seemed vast and unbridgeable. When they finally left, Kira was quiet in the car, staring out the window at the passing city lights. I'm sorry, Nate said finally, breaking the silence. I shouldn't have brought you there, not yet. No, Kira turned to him. I'm glad you did. I needed to see it. See what? The reality of what being with you means, Kira said softly. The scrutiny, the judgment, the assumptions people will make. Nate took her hand. None of that matters to me, Kira. Only you matter. But it will matter, Kira insisted. Over time, it will wear on both of us. The constant need to prove myself worthy of you. That's not... It is, Kira interrupted gently. We both know it is. Tonight was just a taste of what our lives would be like. Fear gripped Nate's heart. Are you saying you don't want this? Don't want us? Kira looked down at their joined hands. I'm saying I don't know if I'm strong enough for this. I love being with you, Nate. When it's just us or us and Jaden, everything feels right. But out there, she gestured toward the window. Out there, I'm not sure I belong in you, our world. Then we'll create our own world, Nate said fiercely. One where none of that matters. Kira smiled sadly. Is that even possible? They had reached her apartment building. The driver opened the door, and Kira stepped out, the blue gown shimmering under the streetlights. Come upstairs, she asked softly. Nate nodded, following her into the building. The elevator ride was silent, both lost in their thoughts. Inside the apartment, the lights were dimmed. Jaden had left a note saying he was asleep and not to wake him. Kira kicked off her heels with a sigh of relief. "I don't know how women wear these all night." Nate smiled, loosening his tie. "You were the most beautiful woman there." "You're biased," Kira said, but she smiled back. She disappeared into her bedroom and emerged a few minutes later in a t-shirt and sweatpants, face washed clean of makeup. To Nate, she looked even more beautiful, like this, natural, unguarded. "That's better," she said, curling up on the couch. Nate sat beside her, and she leaned against him, his arm automatically going around her shoulders. "I meant what I said in the car," Nate said after a moment. "We can create our own world, Kira, one where society parties and judgmental people don't matter." Kira traced patterns on his hand. "Is that what you want? To step back from all that? If it means having you in my life, yes." Nate turned to face her fully. "Listen to me, Kira. Before you, I was just going through the motions, building the company bigger, making more money, attending events I hated because it was expected. None of it meant anything." He took her hands in his. "You and Jaden, you've shown me what really matters. Connecting with people, caring, showing up." He took a deep breath. "I love you, Kira. I think I've loved you since that first wrong number text." Tears welled in Kira's eyes. "Nate, you don't have to say it back," he said quickly. "I just needed you to know. And to know that I'm not giving up on us because of some society gossips or the differences in our backgrounds." Kira was quiet for a long moment, tears slipping down her cheeks. Finally, she whispered, "I love you too." Nate felt as though his heart might burst. He pulled her to him, kissing her with all the emotion he'd been holding back. She returned the kiss with equal fervor, her hands threading through his hair. When they broke apart, both breathless, Kira rested her forehead against his. "I'm still scared," she admitted, "but I think what we have is worth fighting for." "It is," Nate agreed fervently, "and we'll figure it out together day by day." As they sat together in the quiet apartment, the barriers between their worlds didn't seem quite so insurmountable anymore. Tihei had challenges ahead, certainly, but they also had something precious, love that had begun with a wrong number, but had found its way to exactly the right hearts. 2 months after the charity gala, Kira sat at the kitchen table in her apartment, surrounded by college brochures. Since reconnecting with Nate, she'd allowed herself to revisit her dream of becoming a teacher. With his encouragement, she'd applied to Nashville Community College's education program. "Have you decided yet?" Jaden asked, joining her at the table. His health had improved significantly in recent weeks, the new treatment plan working better than anyone had expected. "I'm leaning toward the evening program," Kira said, pushing a brochure toward him. "I can keep my day shift at the diner, at least for now." "You should go full-time," Jaden said. "I'm well enough to take care of myself." Kira shook her head. "One step at a time. Besides, I need the income." Jaden gave her a look. "Nate would help if you'd let him." "I know," Kira sighed. "But I need to do this myself, Jaden. At least part of it." Since that night after the gala, Kira and Nate had settled into a relationship built on honesty and compromise. Nate respected her need for independence, never pushing financial help on her unless she asked. In turn, Kira had made efforts to understand his world, occasionally accompanying him to business functions where she was gradually gaining confidence. The media had caught wind of their relationship after the gala. Tech Millionaire's waitress girlfriend headlines had splashed across tabloids. Kira had been mortified at first, but Nate had helped her laugh it off. "They'll find someone else to gossip about next week," he'd assured her. He'd been right. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. She opened it to find Nate standing there, looking uncharacteristically nervous in jeans and a casual button-down shirt. "Hey," she said, rising on tiptoes to kiss him. "I thought you had meetings all day." "Cancelled them," Nate said, running a hand through his hair. "I needed to talk to you about something." Concern flickered across Kira's face. "Everything okay?" "Yeah, just... Can we talk privately?" Jaden took the hint. "I'll be in my room, with headphones on. Very loud headphone S. As her brother disappeared down the hall, Kira turned to Nate. "You're making me nervous. What's going on?" Nate took her hands, leading her to the couch. "I've been doing a lot of thinking lately. About us. About the future." Kira's heart skipped. "Okay. I've made a decision. A big one." Nate took a deep breath. "I'm stepping back from Langston Tech." "What?" Kira stared at him in shock. "But the company is your life. You built it from nothing." "It was my life," Nate corrected gently. "Before you. Now it's just a company." "I don't understand. What does stepping back mean?" "I'm promoting Michael to CEO," Nate explained. "He's been running most of the day-to-day operations anyway, while I've been distracted with happiness." He smiled, squeezing her hands. "I'll stay on as chairman of the board, but no more 80-hour weeks. No more missing life because I'm stuck in meetings." Kira shook his head. "Nate, you can't do this because of me. I never asked you to choose between your company and our relationship." "You didn't have to ask," Nate said. "And I'm not choosing between the company and you. I'm choosing a better life, one with balance." He cupped her face gently. "Claire died because I was too busy building an empire to see she was drowning. I won't make that mistake again. Not with the people I love." Tears welled in Kira's eyes. "Are you sure about this?" "More sure than I've been about anything in a long time." Nate reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "Which brings me to the second reason I'm here today." Kira's eyes widened as he opened the box, revealing a diamond ring, elegant but not ostentatious, exactly her style. "Kira Dawson," Nate said, his voice thick with emotion. "You texted a wrong number and somehow found your way into my heart. You've shown me what really matters in life. You've made me want to be a better man." He took a shaky breath. "Will you marry me?" Kira stared at the ring, then at Nate's hopeful face. 1,000 thoughts raced through her mind. It was fast. They'd only known each other a few months. There were still challenges ahead, their different backgrounds, the inevitable scrutiny. But in her heart, she knew. She'd never been more certain of anything. "Yes," she whispered, then louder. "Yes." Nate's face broke into a smile of pure joy. He slipped the ring onto her finger, then pulled her into a kiss that left them both breathless. When they broke apart, Kira was laughing through her tears. "Jaden, you can come out now." Her brother appeared so quickly that Kira knew he'd been listening at the door. He grinned at the sight of the ring on her finger. "About time," he said, but his voice was thick with emotion. "Congratulations, sis." He turned to Nate. "Welcome to the family, officially." Nate embraced Jaden, the two men who meant everything to Kira, sharing a moment that made her heart swell. "There's something else," Nate said, turning back to Kira. "Part of stepping back from the company means I have more time for other things. I've been talking to Dr. Patterson about starting a foundation for young adults with chronic kidney conditions." Kira's eyebrows rose. "Really?" "Really," Nate confirmed. "The Jaden Dawson Foundation has a nice ring to it, don't you think?" Jaden's mouth fell open. "You're naming it after me?" "If that's okay with you," Nate said. "I was hoping you might want to get involved. We'll need someone who understands what these kids are going through. And with your online business classes—" "Yes!" Jaden exclaimed, all pretense of cool gone. "Absolutely yes!" Kira watched the two most important men in her life making plans, her heart so full it felt like it might burst. The journey to this moment had been unexpected, starting with a text meant for someone else, but somehow it had led her exactly where she needed to be. The next few months were a whirlwind of changes. Nate officially announced his new role at Langston Tech, causing a brief drop in stock prices that recovered once investors saw that Michael was more than capable of taking the reins. The media speculated that Nate's waitress girlfriend was behind the decision, but neither Nate nor Kira paid much attention to the gossip. Kira enrolled in night classes at the community college, determined to earn her teaching degree. She reduced her hours at the diner, but insisted on keeping the job, much to Martha's delight. "Just because I'm marrying a rich man doesn't mean I'm going to sit around eating bonbons all day," she told her mentor with a laugh. That's my girl, Martha approved, patting her cheek. Jaden's health continued to improve, and he threw himself into helping Nate plan the foundation. His first-hand experience with the medical system proved invaluable, and for the first time in years, he felt like his condition was a strength rather than a weakness. As for Nate, the change in him was remarkable. The shadows that had haunted his eyes since Claire's death began to fade. He smiled more, laughed more. He still worked hard, but now he made time for life, for game nights with Kira and Jaden, for weekend trips to the mountains, for quiet evenings at home just being together. 3 months after the proposal, Kira stood in the back room of a small chapel on the outskirts of Nashville, staring at her reflection in a full-length mirror. Her wedding dress was simple but elegant, ivory lace with cap sleeves and a modest train. "You look beautiful," Martha said, adjusting the small tiara that held Kira's veil in place. "Your mama would be so proud." Kira smiled through the tears that threatened. "I wish she could be here." "She is, honey," Martha assured her, patting her heart. "Right here." A knock at the door announced Jaden, handsome in his tuxedo despite the cane he still sometimes needed for support. His eyes widened at the sight of his sister. "Wow," he said simply. "Nate's a lucky man." "Ready to walk me down the aisle?" Kira asked, linking her arm through his. "More than ready," Jaden confirmed. "But there's someone else who wants to see you first." Kira's brow furrowed in confusion. "Who?" Jaden opened the door wider, revealing a man standing hesitantly in the hallway, tall, with grey at his temples and lines around his eyes that hadn't been there 5 years ago. But Kira would know him anywhere. "Dad," she whispered, her voice catching. Robert Dawson shifted uncomfortably. "Hello, Kira. What are you doing here?" "I invited him," Jaden admitted. "I hope that's okay." Kira looked between her brother and the father who had abandoned them when they needed him most. "Why?" "Your fiancé came to see me," Robert said quietly. "Told me what a remarkable woman you've become. Said I was a fool for missing out on knowing you these past years." He swallowed hard. He was right. Nate went to see you. Kira couldn't hide her surprise. Robert nodded. "About a month ago. Showed up at my door in Memphis. I almost didn't recognize him from the pictures in the business magazines." He took a tentative step forward. "I'm not asking for forgiveness, Kira. I don't deserve it. I just wanted to see you on your wedding day to tell you how sorry I am for everything." Kira stood frozen, a storm of emotions churning inside her. Anger at the years of absence, hurt at the abandoned birthdays, holidays, milestones, but also, unexpectedly, relief. Relief that he was alive, that he looked well, that he had cared enough to come. "I don't know what to say," she admitted. "You don't have to say anything," Robert assured her. "I can go. I don't want to ruin your day." Kira looked at Jaden, who shrugged slightly. "Your call, sis." Taking a deep breath, Kira made a decision. "Stay," she said to her father. "Not to W. Walk me down the aisle. Jaden's doing that, but stay for the ceremony, for the reception. We can talk. Maybe." Relief flooded Robert's face. "Thank you," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "Thank you, Kira." As her father retreated to find a seat in the chapel, Kira turned to Jaden. "Did you know about Nate going to see him?" Jaden nodded. "He asked me first if I thought it was a good idea. I said I didn't know, but that you deserved the chance to decide for yourself if you wanted Dad in your life again." Kira shook her head in wonder. "That man. He loves you," Jaden said simply. "Now, are you ready to go marry him or what?" The small chapel was filled with a mix of people from their different worlds. Martha and the staff from the diner, Patricia and key employees from Langston Tech, Michael, looking uncomfortable but making an effort, and in the front row, a framed photograph of Claire placed there by Nate to ensure his sister was present on this important day. As the music began and Kira walked down the aisle on Jaden's arm, she had eyes only for Nate. He stood at the altar, tall and handsome in his tuxedo, but it was the look on his face that took her breath away. Pure love, wonder, and a joy so deep it seemed to radiate from him. When she reached him, he took her hands in his eyes never leaving hers as the minister began the ceremony. Their vows were simple, heartfelt promises to love, support, and respect each other. When Nate slipped the wedding band onto her finger to join her engagement ring, his hands trembled slightly. "I, Nathaniel, take you, Kira, to be my wife," he said, his voice steady and sure. "To love and to cherish, to support and to honor from this day forward. You texted a wrong number but somehow found the right heart. My heart. Forever." Tears slipped down Kiara's cheeks as she repeated her own vows, promising to stand by him through whatever life brought their way. "By the power vested in me," the minister said, "I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." Nate's kiss was gentle, reverent, a promise sealed before their closest friends and family. When they broke apart, both smiling through tears, the small gathering erupted in cheers. The reception was held in the garden behind the chapel, white fairy lights twinkling in the trees as dusk fell. It was simple but elegant, exactly what Kira had wanted. No society photographers, no business associates there just for appearances, only people who genuinely cared about them. As they shared their first dance, Nate held Kira close, swaying gently to the music. "Happy?" he murmured against her hair. "More than I ever thought possible," Kira replied, resting her head on his chest. "Even with your father showing up?" Kira leaned back to look at her new husband. "You should have told me you went to see him." "I know," Nate acknowledged, "but I wanted it to be your choice whether to see him or not. I just opened the door. You decided whether to walk through it." "Why did you do it?" Nate's expression turned serious. "Because I know what it's like. To lose family and not be able to get them back. Claire's gone forever, but your father, there was still a chance there. A chance for healing, maybe not today or tomorrow, but someday." He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "I didn't want you to have regrets." Kira shook her head in wonder. "How did I get so lucky?" "I'm the lucky one," Nate insisted. "Do you know what today is?" Kira laughed. "Our wedding day?" "Yes, but it's also exactly 4 months since you sent that wrong number text," Nate said, his eyes twinkling. 4 months since you changed my life." 4 months, Kira marveled. "It feels like forever and no time at all." "And we have the rest of our lives ahead of us," Nate said, pulling her close again. Across the garden, Jaden was deep in conversation with Dr. Patterson about the foundation. Martha was teaching Patricia how to line dance, both women laughing. And in a quiet corner, Robert Dawson sat watching his daughter, regret and hope mingling in his eyes. It wasn't a perfect fairy tale. There would still be challenges ahead. Kira's studies, the foundation, finding their place between their 2 different worlds. But as Kira looked around at the unlikely family they'd created, a blend of diner staff and tech executives, medical professionals and estranged relatives, she knew they would face those challenges together. Later that news, as they prepared to leave for their honeymoon, Kira pulled Nate aside. "I have something for you," she said, handing him a small box. Inside was a simple silver keychain with an engraved message. "Wrong number, right heart, always." Nate's eyes misted as he read it. "Perfect," he said, kissing her softly. "Just like you." Kira laughed. "Far from perfect, but perfect for you, I hope. More than you know," Nate assured her, taking her hand as they were looked toward the waiting car, surrounded by the cheers and well-wishes of their guests. As they drove away, Kira looked back at the twinkling lights of the reception, at Jaden waving from his wheelchair, at the unlikely gathering of people from all parts of their lives. "What are you thinking?" Nate asked, noticing her thoughtful expression. "That sometimes the best things in life come from unexpected places," Kira said, squeezing his hand. "From wrong numbers and second chances and having the courage to start over. And from having someone who shows up," Nate added softly, "even when it's hard." "Especially when it's hard," Kira agreed. As Nashville faded behind them and open road stretched ahead, Kira felt a sense of peace settle over her. The journey had been unexpected, full of twists and turns, misunderstandings and revelations, but it had led her here, to this moment, to this man, to a love that had begun with a wrong number, but had found its way to exactly the right hearts. 6 months later, Kira stood in the doorway of their new home. a comfortable house not far from her old apartment building. Not a mansion, not a penthouse, but a real home with a yard and enough space for Jaden to have his own suite for when he was at college. The Jaden Dawson Foundation was thriving under Nate and Jaden's leadership, already helping dozens of young adults with kidney conditions. Kira was excelling in her education classes, her professors impressed by her dedication and natural teaching ability. Nate was finding his new role as chairman fulfilling without being all-consuming, giving him time for what really mattered. And as for Robert, small steps, monthly dinners, difficult conversations, the beginning of healing. "What are you thinking about?" Nate asked, coming up behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. "How different life was a year ago," Kira said, leaning back against him. "How I never could have imagined all this." "Regrets?" Nate asked, only half joking. Kira turned in his arms, rising on tiptoes to kiss him. "Not a single one, except maybe waiting so long to text a wrong number." Nate laughed, the sound warm and free, the sound of a man who had found his way home. "Best mistake you ever made." "Best mistake I ever made," Kira agreed. Ed, letting him lead her inside, closing the door on the past and stepping fully into their future. A future built on second chances, healing, and a love that had found its way against all odds. A love that had begun with a wrong number, but had led to exactly the right heart. The end.